Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books Author Reading Series. You can find out about this and all of our other author events at skylightbooks.com, where you can also browse our inventory as well as order books online. You can also follow us on Twitter or even be our friend at Facebook. If you would like to talk to a real person, we can be reached at 323-660-1175. Thanks for listening and enjoy.
But tonight, we're so very happy to have Kim from LA here, Kim Dower. I know I've had the pleasure of seeing some of her work when she was workshopping her pieces here at Skylight, and it was really terrific. It was a lot of fun, and I know for myself, only having known her work as Kim from LA, it was like, Kim? And then I was like, oh, Kim Dower, the poet. How terrific, you know. So we're very happy to have her here. Ladies, please welcome Kim Dower.
Hi, everybody. So if you buy 3 of my books, you get a raffle. That's, that works out great. Thank you, Noel. It's a pleasure to be here at one of my favorite independent bookstores. And I recognize a lot of my friends in the audience. Thank you for coming out. So, any baseball fans here? It's the World Series, and don't root for the Giants, but, well, I shouldn't say that. I want to read a poem. I want to start with a poem that's not in my book, just because when I go to poetry readings, that's what poets do. They say, I want to start with a poem that's not in my book, just to show they're still writing, even after the book is done. So I'm going to start with a poem that's not in my book, but it is in this great, wonderful calendar that just came out. And this is, I think they also sell this at Skylight, so I missed the reading when all the poets did this a couple of weeks ago, because I was in Portland on my book tour, those are words I never thought I'd say, so I just wanted to say them. So this poem is called Game Over. I squirted too much mustard on my hot dog, and now I can't eat it, I tell my friend at the game. That's why God made napkins, he tells me, wipe it off. I tell him I knew God made mustard, but I didn't know he also made napkins. I tell him once the mustard gets soaked up by the bun, it's game over. Even napkins won't help. He's disturbed. I can see in his face he's mad. I wasted a perfectly decent hot dog. And worse, now I'm doubting God. When did you stop believing in him? He asks me, his face twisted like the pretzel I'm about to put mustard on. Did I ever believe in God? Was God peeking through the window up there in Laurel Canyon when my son was conceived? Was he in my belly when they sliced it open so they could lift my baby out of his warm, private ocean? Was God in my son's hands when he pitched a perfect game at the pan? My friend's still talking. I was an altar boy, he continues. You don't forget the Eucharist, wearing the crisp cassock, snuffing out candles as the priest consecrates bread and wine. You don't forget ringing the bells until someone you love dies. Then it's game over. He tells me these things, our shoulders touching, as Manny hits deep into left field. The men on base run their hearts out, thousands in the stands praying, please God, please, get the run, win the game. As the mustard hardens on my cold dog, bun stiff, I slip it under my seat with God's blessing as the first man slides safely to home. That would be a baseball poem. Game over. Now I'll read poems that are in the book. There are 71 poems in the book. And I'm going to read about 60 of them. I hope that's okay. No, I'm not, really. But I do love to read them, so just settle down and relax. And the first poem in the book, I've divided the book into 4 parts. True stories, people give me titles, Cranky in Paradise, and how-to, because I think if there was more how-to in poetry books, they'd sell more. So I have a how-to section. The first poem in the book is called They Took the Mailbox Away, and the title is also the first line of the poem. They took the mailbox away on Cahuenga and Clinton. I know because I wasn't feeling right. Decided to take a walk, figure things out, remember why I love the clouds. Found my rent check still in my purse, gave me a goal, a project I could complete. But when I got to the corner, it was gone, just space in the place where the box had been, where I've deposited countless bills, birthday cards, where once I tossed a sticky, half-eaten ice cream dish. There was no garbage can in sight. I gave it some serious thought, but now realize the mess I made may have destroyed a young girl's last letter to her grandmother, stained a college application. What did admissions people think when it arrived with chocolate sprinkles stuck to the stamps? Worse yet, a love letter someone finally had the guts to send, smeared with butterscotch sauce, possibly obscuring the recipient's address, sender never knowing it was not received. When I saw the empty corner where the mailbox used to be, granted out of place on that isolated street, it hit me. The lives I ruined, the mailman's soiled hands. Thank you. Well, here's a poem that I wrote when I was coming to visit this bookstore one day. And there's a jewelry store down the street, a very scary jewelry store. And I was actually waiting for somebody in front of it, and I looked in the window of the jewelry store, and I saw this ant in the window, and I wrote this poem. The ant in the window. See? What'd I tell you? The ant in the window. I'm walking down Vermont Avenue, attracted by the window. Odd engagement rings no one will buy. Tarnished gold pinky ring for someone's girlfriend. The pendant screeching with impossible stones. Then I see it, one busy ant racing between diamonds and rubies, sterling silver, 35% off. Yes, we have it. One black ant climbing over the giant pearl, negotiating its way around the elegant tennis bracelet, stuck in the beveled engraving. We will pay the sales tax on any purchase of gold. The ant stops short in front of the sign, like it's interested to know about sales tax, starts going faster, now rushing in a frenzy, circling sapphire earrings like a glitter addict. As the ant disappears under a brooch the size of your grandmother's breasts, I see the necklace of my dreams, 35% off. Well, here's a poem that, this comes from the True Stories section. Oh my goodness, I should be looking at my watch so I don't keep you here for longer than 90 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. 20 minutes. But all professional writers, they take their watches off and place them by where they're reading so that you know they are paying attention. Right, Al?
I've never done that.
No? It's a good trick. It's a technique I teach.
I don't have a watch.
Oh. Has anyone ever been to a poetry reading before? Okay. Has anyone ever fallen asleep at a poetry reading before? Well, I did. I hope you don't fall asleep tonight, but I did. I fell asleep at a poetry reading. And it was a horrifying experience because I think my head landed on someone I knew. And it was humiliating. But so I forced myself to write this poem about it. And it's called At a Poetry Reading Late Saturday Afternoon. Tired from a long week of caring for others, working, worrying, walking dogs, feeding mice, cleaning traps, harvesting crops, flying planes over deserts, milking cows, you name it, I'm tired from doing it. The sky is cloudy. It's warm inside this quiet room. Strangers listening to poems roll out one after another, lyrical, lovely, sitting straight in my hardback chair. My head drops to my chest, then snaps backward, mouth open like my grandfather's at Radio City. I was 7 when he'd take me to see the Rockettes. "Look at those legs," he'd say. Then his head would fall, him snoring, me mesmerized by the line of dancers glittering across the stage, one long leg lifting after another. Now, in this silent room, the poet reads her best words, best order, and I'm 7 again. When the tonsil doctor puts the mask over my mouth, "Count backwards," he says, his fist opening, the foam bunnies jumping out of his hand, and I was out. Was it the ether or the whispers of my mother and aunt that lulled me into a sleep my bones can still remember? It's so warm in here, so cloudy outside, and the mice will soon be hungry. Okay, wake up, wake up. All right. Anybody here shop at Target? There, babies always shop at Target. Well, it's a great place to find material for poems. And this poem was written in the Target parking lot, and it's in the true story section. It's called "I Love a Man Who Exfoliates." Standing in the aisle searching for leave-in conditioner, I see him, tall, giant-faced, cornflower blue t-shirt, his wife standing 6 feet away holding the cart, his daughter squirming inside the plastic bars. He yells to mother and child, "I want a good exfoliator, something just for me. I don't want to worry, anyone else will use it." "Here," she says, pointing to a puffy white loofah hanging on a string, "this can be yours. We won't touch this." "Can I use it on my face?" His giant face must take hours to exfoliate. What might he be scrubbing off? Years of sweat, worrying people use his things, eat his sharp cheddar housed in its own lockbox in the fridge. He squeezes it to rate its coarseness, determine if it's capable of obliterating his skin cells. Does it have the power to sandpaper his forehead down to subconscious? I blurt out, "I love a man who exfoliates." I hope there's no, exfoliators here, at least male ones. Don't tell me. All right. This is from the People Give Me Titles section. And this is true. Somebody gave me this title, just emailed me. I was asking when I started writing again, just email me a title and I'll write a poem. It was my little exercise. And people gave me some really interesting titles. And I forced myself to write the poem, and some of them worked and most of them didn't. But let's hope this one did. The title is called Bent Daisies. I see them at the store, stems wrapped in brown paper, green, pink, blue, yellow, orange. Must be dyed, can't be their natural colors. But I'll bring these daisies home. They match everything. I will arrange them, green in the blue vase, pink in the clear, some by my bed to look at before sleep. Daisies, the M&Ms of flowers. Impossible to cry when you see them. They are lemon drops. Positive flowers bring good news, not complex orchids, plumeria, lavender, tiger lilies. Those can bring you down, beg sadness. Daisies are all personality, clean, simple, generic sweetness, no trouble. As I take the brown paper off, I am stunned to see my easy-going, fun-loving, catch-a-wave daisies are bent. Can't stand up straight, difficult daisies. I condemn them to the crummy vase. The one up there I can't reach, barely give them enough water to survive this wretched afternoon. But later, when I glimpse them, falling over, spread out, splayed, they are dancers praying. I carry them back into the light. All right, let's see, what else should I read? Let's try this. This is from the true story section, and it's a true story. That's why it's in the true story section. And this really happened. It's a true story. And I try to read this very fast because it just looks like this. It's supposed to be one sentence. So, and the title is the first line of the poem. Huge rat in laundry room. Written on a Post-it stuck to the coffee maker. I read it first thing in the morning. My son wrote it. The night he came home with his dirty clothes, dumped them in the laundry room. The rat standing in the middle of the floor next to the washer. Looked up at him when I saw the Post-it at 6 a.m. I wondered why he didn't scream when he saw the rat. How did it get under the cabinets? You know they can shrink down to the thickness of paper. Their bones collapsing like years. They can slink in or out of any hole, crawl space sealed, corner, squeeze themselves like toothpaste through a hair fracture in cement. I imagine its nose bobbing around my laundry, sniffing panties in the dark, looking up at my son who came home last night to dump his clothes, have a bite to eat, sleep in the bed where he became a man. Let's see. This poem is called If My Father Were Alive. If my father were alive, he'd be in his recliner sipping scotch. It's a line drive out to left field, blasting out the window of his Hollywood pad, his parakeet yelling with the TV. If my father were alive, he'd visit on an early fall Sunday, tell me our son is beautiful, ask why we don't grow vegetables when we have such a great backyard, remind me he still had the sunglasses he wore in cadet school. He'd be talking about the future even though he didn't have one. If my father were alive, he'd be telling jokes to strangers in a Glendale dive. If my father were alive, he'd be scraping ice cream from the bottom of the container, chocolate sticking to his thick knuckles, while he slow-cooked corned beef, dinner he invited us to share, the meal we never got to eat, because his heart gave out swinging his 7-iron on the Griffith Park course. If my father were alive, heaven would be calm. The woman in the apartment next door would still be dressing up, her fuchsia prince shrieking into the night. Julia, should I read my roller derby poem? I only read this poem out loud once at the Beat Museum in San Francisco because I figured those people could take it, okay? There's a lot of darker poems in the book, which I don't force on people at readings. I say this for when you take the book home. But I don't know if this is dark or not. It's not that dark, I guess. It's realistic. We have a roller derby player. Okay. This is from the People Give Me Titles. I had a friend, and he said to me, she showed me pictures of injuries. Basically, and this is true, but I didn't know what the poem was going to be, but I got the title. She showed me pictures of injuries. So here we go. I met a girl who skates in the roller derby. She showed me pictures of injuries. Lobby of the Hilton, Colden, Wisconsin, he tells me. Met a girl called Hot Pink Suede, hanging with Jazz Night Queen. The two locked their pretty ankles. He saw their bruises, wiped out welts, streaked their calves. Hot Pink giggling inside her drink. She showed him pictures of injuries. He could hear the swelling on her arms. Wanted to lift her up into the lobby sky. Couldn't get enough of her flying on those skates, tossed across the gym, him braced on the other side, wanting to take the hit full force, her solid, smoking body. He closes his eyes, sees her flying. She tugs at Jazz Night, dizzy, their short skirts singing to him. He's cold in Wisconsin. He watches them kiss. He met a girl who skates across his face. She licks the cut on Jazz Night's lips. He tastes the blood. They laugh. Jazz falls off, the lounge into the checkered carpet, smelling of cigarettes, bad teeth battered with footprints from a million skaters rolling in for a quickie, showing pictures of injuries he wishes he was responsible for. Not that dark, I guess. All right, a couple more. All right. Something sweet? Sweet. First email of the day? No, never mind. I don't know if this is sweet, but this is a true story. This is called Geography Matters. Taking car service from Delray to Miami International, 60-plus miles, Route 95, past palm trees, junkers, swing sets, gators giddy with humidity, and I have a driver who likes to talk. Fingers too chubby for a ring, his massive back dents the leather, eyeglasses from the 70s, his accent familiar, maybe Russian, he points things out, headlines each statement, let me make you an example. Turns out he's from Yugoslavia, where he says people are better looking. They look better when they come from Eastern Europe or from the islands because it's when people mix that makes them more beautiful. Let me make you an example. Back home, I taught geography, was well respected, didn't drive a car all day, though don't get me wrong, I like the people. They sometimes become friends. They like to listen. Back home, geography matters. Here, no one cares. I care, I tell him, lying, trying to change the conversation. I tell him I wonder why it takes an hour less to fly from L.A. to Miami than Miami to L.A., but that only excites him, makes him make another example. He tells me it's quicker going east because of the Earth's rotation. It's geography. That's why I know. That's why I could make you that example. That's why I can tell you why the clouds move faster in the Florida sky, why I can't work at the rent-a-car because I need to be outside, even driving all day. And he takes out a pad, colored markers, blocks, wood, pipe cleaners, matchsticks, makes me many examples. A mockingbird wandering the roof, an orange blossom floating down a creek, a sketch of himself wading through a swamp, hands me a map of Croatia, grains of white sand slipping into the creases of the seats. All right, true story. People give me titles. Okay, this was truly a title, a headline that I read in the LA Times. And it was the only time I ever said, I love the LA Times. Sorry, is David Ewan here? No. It's called The Nudists Are Getting Ready to Pack. That was the headline. Because there's a nudist colony in the desert, and I guess they were closing it, so it was a story, and the headline was The Nudists Are Getting Ready to Pack. How do the nudists get ready to pack? Do they pack in the nude, or do they dress to get in the mood? What will the nudists pack when the nudists are ready to pack? Clothes so bare of threads only the nudists can see them? Clothes without zippers, buttons, or hooks, so the nudists can be nude again soon? For the nudism curious, some important facts. Nudism takes place in every corner of the globe. Nudists have beautiful clothes they never wear but keep as pets. China red silk blouses, burlap trousers, Angora sweaters, knee-high boots with skinny heels they put on leashes and walk. Nude areas are isolated from non-nude areas, so encounters with clothed people are less likely. Hey, look at the nudists! Our itchy turtlenecks clinging to our throats, we will never be free of care. Not even the weakest nudist would suffer. What on earth should I wear? For nudists, clothing is redundant. The skin on their bodies is the perfect outfit. You'll rarely hear a nudist say, "Should I pack that extra jacket?" So there's a little nudist poem. All right, I'm going to read one more. And it's from the how-to section. Because I did promise you there are how-to. Now, how to find the how-to poem. Let's see. And Thanksgiving is coming up. We all know that. So, how many people don't like turkey? Ah, great. Then this will help you. This will help you to eat it then. This poem is called How to Eat Turkey If You Don't Like Turkey. Okay? Don't look at it while you eat. Look across the table and watch the lips of others. Wonder what they taste like. Tear off bite-sized pieces with violent snaps. Feel the meat in your fingers. While imagining the skin of a stranger, dark hair just before you enter. Dip into gravy thick and rich as your fantasies, murky as the New York Thanksgiving sky. Gently place the turkey in your mouth. Feel the juices drench your tongue. Pretend chewing it will save your life. Close your eyes when you swallow so your hosts will believe it tastes good. Let it drip just a drop onto your pants, stretched with expectations. How to eat turkey? If you don't like turkey, think about what you do like. The hardest slap when you're not prepared, the softest kiss when you are, your face trapped inside your lover's dream. Thank you. Oh. Anybody have any questions? I wrote them all in one night. It was really fun.
I was reading your bio, and your bio said that you started, you got your BFA in creative writing from Emerson College, and then you moved to Los Angeles, and you had a break from poetry, and then you started writing, and that was a dam broke open. Can you talk about that process?
Well, that person knew me when I was writing at Emerson, right? Was I really writing poems at Emerson?
I think it was limericks.
Limericks. There was an old woman from Canton. Okay. I forgot the question. No, I started writing in college, and I got a BFA in creative writing, and I actually taught. I taught creative writing for 2 years at Emerson after, and I guess I was a poet. I considered myself a poet. And it was very depressing. No, I mean, seriously, I wanted to go see the world, and go on a ship around the world. No, I stopped writing because I think you hit a wall when you're 19. What do you have to write about? You said it all, really. You're writing the same poem over and over and over and over and over, and it got boring, A. B, all you know are poets, really, and they're really boring. And, just kidding. So that was it. It was over. I moved out here, new life, new me. But I always worked around writers. So my company, I do publicity for writers. I've always been around writers. I help writers get their word out to the world, and I've always loved doing that. And then yes, it was sort of like a frost, like if you were ever completely numb. Has anybody ever been completely numb? Like after a deep freeze, and things start moving again, like you feel, oh my God, I can feel my toes, or oh yeah, I have a twitch. That was the feeling of like having to write the poetry again. And so I started keeping notebooks and writing things down, and a miracle did happen, which was, it no longer was a chore to write. It no longer was, I have to write a poem, I have to finish. It was just beautiful, and it has been, knock wood, they just flow out. They come all the time. And I love doing it. I just want to get home to do it. And that never happened. In the old days, I forced myself to write them, Now, it's like when you start eating healthy and you like to, instead of the doctor telling you you have to. I'm not sure that's a really good analogy. But I'm tired now. Any other questions? Jerry, did you have a question?
Like, did you write in the morning, or you just write anytime during the day?
I'm writing one right now, actually. No, I write, I do. I mean, I don't have a set time. But if it's at all quiet, I'm writing. I come home and I start writing. You know, when I write, this is the only bad thing, in the middle of the night. Because I wake up in the middle of the night and I'll take an hour and I'll at least get it down, and then the next day I'll start to work. But I write it during work, right, Steve?
I catch her under the desk.
I mean, something will happen, and I'll say, okay, give me 20 minutes, or, you know. I just need it quiet, but I don't need it silent. After all, I wrote in the parking lot at Target. So, but I write all the time now.
How many times do you go over your
A lot of these poems have been rewritten 30, 40 times. I take a writing class every Saturday, a workshop, and I will say that that saves me. I take it with a wonderful person named Terry Wolverton. Actually, this poem of the month is something she put together, and Game Over's in here. But I go every Saturday morning, and it keeps me very focused. So I know I have to have a poem for that class. So not every week, because we rotate. But I know that 2 hours every Saturday is just about poetry, and then usually for as much of the rest of the day as I can. But I'll rewrite. Most of the poems in this book have been rewritten, at least, I don't know if I could say 30, but endless drafts. Even if you just change a word, it's endless. I hope they seem that way. But, yeah. One draft, yeah. Julia.
I have a question about how have you found like this experience of being an author, since you work with so many authors different, and like what's sort of surprised you about being on a book tour and doing publicity for yourself?
Well, good question, as I tell my authors to say for every question that's asked them. Do you sleep 2 hours a night? Good question. But that is a good question. It sucks being on a tour. No, how many authors here have been on book tours? Jerry, I know. Oh, you've been on a book tour, yeah. So I always say to my authors, don't complain to me. You know, if you go to a signing, there's only 3 people there. Just suck it up, and do your thing. And you're making contacts and all this, and I'm never going to say that again. Because it's demoralizing, it really is. And I mean, thank God I've only picked places like Portland and San Francisco where I had a lot of people, but I spread myself very thin in San Francisco. I did 4 different readings. And at Books Inc. in Berkeley, where I thought my son would be, since he goes to Berkeley, but no, he was here at a Cal football game. It's like, thanks, the book is dedicated to you, thank you very much. But, and I actually sent up flyers, like we made these flyers for him to give around Berkeley, and, I found them in the bottom of his car. It's like, don't trust your children. But anyway, so there were 5 people at Books Inc. But there were 5 great people. It was the poet Kim Adnesio and her friend. And so you make the best of it. And we had a little circle, and it was really fun. And then we all went out and got drunk. But so the answer is, you have to be dignified and just do your thing. But it's very hard. I tell people no one will ever have read the book, which is true. Although poetry, if they want to talk to me, I think they've read at least some of them. All I have to do is read 2 or 3 poems, and you can say you read the book. Excuse me. It's not like a novel where you can't pretend you read it, although they all do. And with me, they all want to just talk about Kim from LA. You know, how'd you start your business and who are your clients and tell us some stories. So I have to do what I tell my clients to do, like get the book in no matter what. And, you know, and I do. But it's hard work being on the road. And I'm not really taken care of because I'm the one putting me on the road. You know, it's not like, you know, Random House. So, excuse me. Hold on a second, please. I'm
I
losing
think a
my...
lot of book people here, like, one of the most terrible things is like dealing with a depressed author, right? You know, sometimes there's no one here, and like, we're like trying, you know, be great, you know, just go out there, just do your thing, and sometimes an author's like, oh, nobody here, you know.
Well, it's very hard. This is a huge crowd. I mean, I feel honored.
Great.
I really do. I feel honored, but you have to make the best of it. If even one person comes out, you have to treat them like they're 20 people. So you kind of have to look around while you're talking to them, you know, just pretend. But it's really, you know, there's these new tricks I'm going to teach people. But I'm so thrilled to have the book published that I'm happy.
I love the cover.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. The cover's fantastic. I had nothing to do with it. Red Hen Press, by the way, I adore them and kiss all their feet, all the many red hens. Did you have a question?
Will you continue to give me a title project?
Sure. Email me titles. I love to do that. But don't expect any money for it. Unless they win a prize. There was... Remember what we did? I'll tell you this. Then you have to think of inventive ways to get your book out there, and I'm the inventor of inventive ways. So, but it doesn't really work that often. But anyway, I wrote a poem that's in the book called "They Discontinued Carrots," which is actually a very funny poem. And somebody who used to work with me a while ago, her name is Carolyn. Anyway, she'd always get our lunch from Subway, and my sandwich was always the same, and it had a ton of carrots on it. And one day she came into the office, and she was very upset looking, very scared, and she looked at me, and I was like, "What's the problem?" And she said, "They discontinued carrots." So that was a case where I said, "Go away, don't talk to me for an hour." And I wrote the poem, "They Discontinued Carrots." Okay, so it's a great, it's one of my favorite poems in here, but it's exhausting to read it. And it's all the things about carrots. And then in the New York Times magazine section a few weeks ago, there was a story about how this PR company is spending millions of dollars, and they got paid millions of dollars by the carrot farmers, to increase carrots' visibility. Like, make carrots something again, And so I had this vision. I could see my poem like being put to music and like the little carrots walking on YouTube, and they discontinued carrots. So we found the PR company that was doing this, and I wrote this, really good email, and I sent my poem, and there's no punchline to this story. I was just completely ignored. But there's a case where, thinking inventively really doesn't work at all. So... Any other questions? Jessica?
So how do you write? I mean, do you carry something electronic with you all the time, or a pad and a pencil?
A robot. I have. No, I just I write. I have a pads everywhere, and pieces of paper, and matchbooks, or. Well, that's not how I write, but that's how I write. It sounds a little weird. I write my ideas. If I get them out of nowhere, I'll do that. Well, I just throw it down on the page. Computers are amazing for poetry. We started, in the days there were no computers, and to write a poem, it's so much easier now because poems are words that just keep moving and shifting and moving, and lines that change around, and things that just get thrown out completely. And it's very like an interactive, it's like toys, only they're words from your own head. And to have to type them out and then like white it out, and move it around, you couldn't think. I couldn't write as quickly as I used to think, and now you can. You can write as quickly as you think. So with the poem, you can have a stanza and then move the stanza to the bottom and move this up there, and so I can like block it out at that first time, and then read it out loud. You have to read them out loud to see how it flows. And the first 2 hours is really, the life of it. It starts to breathe there, and just move it around. And then over a period of weeks, it becomes a poem. Is that a better answer? Does that answer?
Yeah. I mean, I was wondering about both types of process, the physical and the...
Well, things like the nudists are getting ready to pack. That's a Sunday morning. I'm reading the New York Times, the LA Times, and it's like, thank you. That's it. And I just go into my room and close the door, and I'm there. I have nothing to do that day, and the poem just comes out. Other days, like I discontinued carrots, they discontinued carrots, I'm at work. And so I'm looking at my email and the phone's ringing. I like writing when other things are going on. I mean, that's the great thing. It's like, I think that's what I couldn't do years and years ago. But after you have a baby and you learn how to, like feed the baby while you're, making a deal and cooking, it's like I can't do just one thing at once anymore. This is really hard just to stand up and talk to you guys because I want to be checking my email. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But so it's very energetic to me to be writing and doing other. But then you need to be quiet, and that's what I have my Saturday class for, And I workshop the poems. I go to also workshops all over the country now. I've gone to the Palm Beach Poetry Festival 3 times. It's amazing. It's 10 days. Sarah Lawrence, 3 summers. So I've really, really been working hard at this, having as many teachers as I can, studying with as many people as I can, because each one really has something to offer. It's amazing.
Is it strange trying to maybe reinvent yourself as a poet, to have other people see you as a poet, not the publicist? You're particularly here in your town.
There's nothing I can do about it.
You know?
When people go, "You write poetry?" I'm not reinventing myself. This is who myself always was. They just didn't know it. And the people who know me well, who knew me, who had me be their publicist, they're not surprised that I'm doing this. I don't talk about it that much with clients who are my clients right now, because it's like, wait, I'm paying her to write a poem, So I downplay it. If any of you are going to call me about a book, don't. But then people who know me know I do my job, and most people don't. Most people do 2 things, like I'm a coal miner, but I also, I'm a ballet dancer. I mean, isn't that like a typical kind of a scenario? Right? Well, we came out here, so we didn't just have to do one thing. Right? Yes, it's really hard to reinvent myself. Any other questions?
We'll take a couple.
I have a question about that. How do you know when a poem is done? And I don't mean finished, but I mean like the first draft. Like how do you know when you've gotten it all out? Will you write it all in one sort of
clump,
and then will you discover a whole new clump?
Well,
I'm really curious about like the structure. Like, how do you structure?
Well, it's changed. So when I first started writing again, I wanted it to be done, and so I wrote it. It was done. It's done. That was the feeling, and now I've given it more breathing room. I always went to revise it when I thought it was done, but now I'm not panicked if I don't get it down in one clump. Like I'm working on one right now. Okay, here's an example. So I went into Erewhon. I'm sure we've all been there. And I looked around and I got really happy because I got this title in my head. The people in the health food store don't look healthy. And I was like, that's so great. So I couldn't finish the shopping because I thought I'd forget it. I didn't have a pad or anything. So I forgot the carrot chips. And I just ran back out to my car. It's always my car. And I wrote, the people in the health food store don't look healthy. And then that night, I knocked it out, and I wrote this poem. Well, actually, I read it to you, right? Poor Steve has to listen to my poems the next day. It must be torture. Okay, so Steve, you want to hear this? Oh, God. Sure, Kim. And I threw out the whole poem. I threw out that whole poem. I thought I had the poem. And I didn't have it at all. But that first stanza lives and breathes. The people in the health food store don't look healthy. Maybe that's why they're here. So I have that, but the poem is now completely changing. So it was a good idea, but the poem is now about, it's not a funny poem. It's turning into like Game Over. It's turning into a poem about dying and all those fun things. And my mother's in a nursing home right now, and it's every day is another nightmare. So I see that that's what this poem is really about. So when you have an idea, like the people in the health food store don't look healthy, it's funny, but it comes from another place that's maybe not that funny, and why you have the need to write that poem. So I give it some breathing room. And how do you know? You just know. It's done. You can't help it anymore. It can't help you. It almost gets up and walks away from you and says, leave me alone now. It's done. Now, my class, I take them in and I read them, and even now, people will say, well, why did you put, I would change, and I block it out a lot of when I know it's done, I block it out. When I need them, I let it in. But it's a process. Well, you know. Great writer. Al Watt, ladies and gentlemen.
We have one final question here.
Yeah, it's poetry. I'm just curious about it. Poetry, like writing a screenplay for a movie or writing film music score for a movie. I'm just curious about that because I write music, and I was just curious about that.
Well, it's probably more like writing music.
Yeah, I just wondering.
I think that there's similarities in all kinds of writing. I think that with screenplays, you need an ear for dialogue, and what people would say or what they would do. I think that all writing, they're all cousins of one another. Poetry is more like music because it's got to have a musical element. That's why when I'm reading these out loud, if they don't seem musical or have some interesting sounds to them, they're not working. They should be musical. But they're not like screenplays because they don't make it that much money like screenplays make. So that's where they differ there. And if anyone wants to put my poems to music, just kimfromla@earthlink.net, and I'd be open to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What I'll do is I'll move all this stuff out of the way, bring in a
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget that you can check out this and all of our other great podcasts at www.skylightbooks.com. Today's music was provided by Fragile Gang. You can check them out at MySpace, Facebook, and the iTunes Music Store. Thanks for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.